Spencer Riley joining us now, former Tennessee offensive lineman, VFL center. And Spencer, how are you, sir?
Good, man. Just trying to get things accomplished for today and keep my day rolling as we move along and get ready for this week's ball game. And it's senior night here at Jefferson County, so trying to get all this paperwork done and get ready for our seniors and their parents to be recognized on this great night here in Dumpling Valley.
Yep, no doubt about it. And you guys could get a first-round home game, right? If you win this Friday,
we've already locked that up, so we're definitely the number one seed in our region. So we will host the playoffs all the way through until we are done playing, or we end up in Chattanooga.
There you go. Hey, I'm just down the road. I'll come root for you.
Come on.
All right. So, Spencer, let's talk about being at home, because I believe, and I was an umpire or official of some sort for about 7-8 years just to get through college. And yes, it took me about 6 years to get through college. Most people are doctors when they do that, not me.
It's all right.
Yeah, but Spencer, I believe when you're at home, the officials are more likely subconsciously to be on your side, especially if momentum with the home team starts to pick up. And I thought we saw some of that in the Tennessee-Alabama game. What are your thoughts on officiating in general?
You got to have them. Doesn't mean you got to like them.
Very true.
That's a touchy question for me, so I'll skirt that question as best I can. But I will say this: I mean, being at home as a coach, I mean, yeah, I can say I would not agree. I do not agree with that statement as for my personal experience. Okay, now I can see that being in a college atmosphere, it could happen that way. It feels like it, seems like it, but. Let's be honest. I mean, there's officials out there that are really, really great officials that, hey, they just miss calls. They miss a call and it goes against you. And it's happened to me as a coach, happened to my team last Friday night. It's happened a couple of times all year long. And it's frustrating, definitely frustrating. But you should never put yourself in that situation to allow official or a call of a ball game to go against you or to dictate the outcome of a ball game.
Did you think the officiating played a small factor or a large factor in the Tennessee-Alabama game?
Well, I think it's a small factor, but, a lot of people will say, I'm trying to be a little bit more politically correct because of the field I'm in here. So I just want you to know that. But I mean, my wholehearted belief is I don't think an official ever tries to screw somebody in a call. I don't think they do. I think it sometimes just happens that way. It feels that way because of the fans, and I think it just happens that way, right? Do I think officials miss calls? Yes, I do. I mean, they're all human just like we are. I screw up on Friday nights just like y'all may mess up on the show, but I know Caleb, he doesn't ever mess up anything. So, I mean, he's Dave, on the other hand, now, hey, we're working with him here, trying to make it out to be the best we can.
It'll happen one day. I'm going to peak in my 70s.
I hear you. I understand. Me too. No. But I don't think officials truly do. I think it's just something that happens, and it's just the nature of the game and how it flows. You know what I mean? So.
Well, yeah, and also I think sometimes people create conspiracies out of nothing when, they'll try to say they had it out for Tennessee when Tennessee was already one of the most penalized teams in the SEC heading into the game. I see this in basketball all the time where they're like, how did our team have so many more fouls than the other team? I'm like, well, because your team fouled more than the other team.
that is a true and correct statement because that's usually what happens. You know what I mean? So, yes. I mean, I tell everybody all the time, I said, we're probably one of the least penalized football teams in East Tennessee. But, I mean, it sure does feel like it sometimes that, boy, they just piling up on your back and you're like, hey, you can't get out of this. And it's definitely a challenge. It definitely gets frustrating as the coach, and as the fans, it gets frustrating, you know what I mean? But if you're committing the penalties, you committed it, so there's a consequence to it. So, hey, you got to pay the consequence, you know what I mean? But again, I think too, the calls that they make that they get right, 100% they should abide by those, right? but I also think there should be some consequences for calls that they don't get right, or the miss. You know what I mean? Um, I'm graded on wins and losses, right? So my job is wins and losses as a football coach, and that's what in college football, that's what it's like. That's what it is. You know what I mean? Officials should be graded. You know, and they don't grade a certain level. They should be held accountable for their actions, and just like us as coaches, we're held accountable for our actions. So you know what I mean? You need to make sure that people are somehow held accountable for their actions as they play a part of the football game.
Yep, completely agree. Spencer's appearance brought to you today by Herald Group Security Solutions, leadership, experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques. These are highly trained individuals that can make schools safer, working with private schools. Now I want to get into public schools. So just go to your school administrator, want your children to be safer at school, and mention Herald Group Security Solutions. They've already had a couple of calls, and we're glad to hear that, because let's keep our children safe at school. Again, Herald Group Security Solutions. Spencer, I had this thought last week, and I know Nick Saban watches the show every day, so I didn't share it because I didn't want to undermine, Tennessee's chances.
Sure,
but I'm looking. Yeah, he does. He's a big fan. He oftentimes comments under Tall Nick. Tall Nick. Yes, there's irony there. And he I thought, why aren't teams loading up the box with the way that this running game is going, and still a questionable quarterback in Joe Milton? And I felt like Alabama didn't do that in the first half, but adjusted and loaded up the box in the second half. Did you see that, or am I on base at all?
I mean, I think they did a lot better job of doing what they do. I mean, Alabama, they're going to do what they do. You know what I mean, defensively, and they're not going to deviate from that. You know, they're going to have wrinkles and stuff for you each and every week. And do I think they committed some more guys to the run? Yeah, I do, because I thought that they thought their front and their box was better than Tennessee's offensive line, and that has been the case, for the majority of the last 15 years. You know what I mean? But I thought going into the ballgame, Tennessee I thought they had an advantage, or it was a slight advantage or a push, that Tennessee was better in their front.
Yeah, Spencer, so you thought it was more of a push than a schematic issue? Because I thought Tennessee's issues running the ball was more just Alabama was selling out to stop those gaps in the middle.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, but like Alabama, I thought Tennessee had the advantage going into the game in their offensive line over Alabama's defensive front. That was not what I want to make sure I get there. But, I mean, I don't think that, when they outload you in the box and you're trying to block 8 with 6, it's kind of hard, and they always try to have one more than what you do. And then with Joe Milton running the football, so now you have to count for him. So you got 7 counting your O-line and your tight end, extra back, whatever you want to make it be, your whoever that may be. So they have to commit one more. So you got some one-on-one opportunities, and you got to win those one-on-ones. You know what I mean? I think we dropped some balls in the second half that cost us. You know what I mean? You do have to complete some balls down the field to loosen that defense back up, and we didn't do that. So it's either lack of execution or just drops, or bad throw. I mean, it's one of the two things that happened.
For in a totally different scenario, you guys oftentimes before that 98 game when you beat Florida faced a situation that probably the two best teams were either in Neyland Stadium or in Gainesville to start the season in September. And then suddenly you need a lot of help to get involved back into a championship game. I thought after the Florida loss this year, Tennessee could still work their way back into the college football playoff if they ran the table. Now they need a whole lot of help. What's that mindset like when you go back to practice?
Well, I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I didn't know if they would be a playoff contending team at the start of the year. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of questions that had to be answered. And there's still a lot of questions that's not been answered, or they've been answered a little bit. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I I think they're sitting about where they need to be or where they should be. You know what I mean? I didn't. They needed to win. They needed to win one of the two big rivalry games, Florida, Alabama. Had to. You know what I mean? To have that chance. And you know what I mean? That was a struggle. It was, for me, I like to see us beat everybody, especially Alabama, Florida. I don't like neither one very much at all. As a fan, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean, where they sit and what the kids are going to do right now, hey, it's all about the choices they make. You know what I mean? It's about how much you love Tennessee. It's about how much you want to continue to build the program, or are you just willing to say, hey, look, I'm done. I'm taking my talents to the NFL. You know, if you get kids that start doing that, and I get it, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, some of these kids are making more money now than they'll ever make in the NFL. So, you know what I mean? So they better do their part and keep competing and trying to go out and win football games on Saturdays.
Yeah, I think Dante Thornton got a gold parachute retirement in college. Sorry, Caleb, go ahead.
Spencer, Spencer, I want to flip the field a little bit because we're talking about the Tennessee offensive line and the trenches, but I felt in the second half the defensive tackles weren't getting the same push they were getting in the first half. Do you think that had to do with the offense not being able to stay on the field as much more than anything else?
Man, when you don't stay on the field as long, you know, in the second half, your defense can kind of get a little tired. You know what I mean? I don't say they got tired. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not there day in and day out. So, I mean, I just thought they got bullied there in the second half a little bit. You know what I mean? In the middle, I thought Alabama said, "Hey, look, we're better than you, and we're going to go out here and prove it."
As a former Vol who keeps up with this program very closely, let me ask you a pretty simple question. Last year, things broke right for Tennessee with the exception of the South Carolina game. Georgia, I thought, was just a better team. But when you win 11 games, expectations get raised for the next season. Do you feel like this program is under Josh Heupel is on a good schedule to be a championship contender? Do you still feel that?
Oh yeah, 100% I do. I don't question that because you gotta think about this. You know what I mean? And when I was at Tennessee and we won 2 SEC titles and a national championship there, right? We played. There was max you could play 13 ball games. Am I right there, Dave? Is that right?
If you played the SEC champion, yes, that is correct with a bowl game. Yes,
with the bowl game, so 13 ball games, right? Now, you know, we average winning 10 ball games a year. You know what I mean? That's impressive, right? It's hard to do. It's hard to do year in and year out, right? I think they're out where they need to be. You win 10 ball games. You win 10 ball games in a college football in the SEC. That's a pretty productive year. You know what I mean? Yeah, everybody wants to compete and play for a SEC title and national championship, guys. It's playing in professional football, playing in the SEC. Let's call it how it is. It's the best conference in the country. Period, hands down. They'll have the most first round draft choices, more than likely. If I'm correct on that, is that what happened last year? If I'm believe
pretty much happens every year. I think
every year, right?
I think the Eagles are all former Georgia players, actually.
So I mean, you know, it's hard to win when you play great teams day in and day out. You know, consistently, and sometimes you're going to win those games. Sometimes you're going to lose those games. You know what I mean? It's better to be lucky than good some days. You got to have the ball to bounce your way. You have to, you got to do those things. And 98, we had the ball bounce our way. Whoa, lights went off again as always. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? You got to have some luck on your side. You know what I mean? It's better. And I tell our kids all the time, it's better to be lucky than good. When you're good, you got to have some luck to win a championship.
Yeah, Spencer, speaking of that, it's also, do you think it's a little underrated this year? You know, the SEC struggled out the gate in September more than they typically have in the past. There were a lot of non-conference losses, but they were breaking in a lot of new quarterbacks. Are you noticing this year? And I feel like Tennessee fits into this category. Does it seem like the SEC teams are getting a lot better as the year is going on? Where, like, if they played these out-of-conference games right now, they'd win. Alabama's figured out how to use Jalen Milroe. Tennessee's figured out, I think, how to use Joe Milton. And Jaden Daniels is turning into a Heisman candidate, honestly, at LSU.
Man, just sit here. Yeah, I do. You know, what I mean, it's hard. It's hard to simulate the game speed for quarterbacks in practice. You try, you do your best, and you work at it, and you compete. And you go out there and do those things day in and day out. And you know, what I mean, sometimes it clicks with them, and sometimes it just takes longer. I mean, in the SEC, they got talented quarterbacks. They got talent across the board. Man, I mean, it's fun to watch SEC football for sure.
I'll tell you this too, and I'm guilty of it. I think that thought it was just all offense. It was all scheme. Jalen Hyatt and Hendon Hooker are pretty darn good football players.
They're talented now. Talented. You know, I'd like to apologize to all the fans out there in your listening land for spoiling y'all. You know, the guys in '98, those guys that we played with. We spoiled the town of Knoxville. 100% we spoiled them rotten.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where the standard comes from. And that's what we expect. And you know what? And that's what you should expect. But you know what bothers me is some of the people out here in listener land, they have no clue what it takes. You know what I mean? They want to bash on kids. They want to bash on coaches. You know what I mean? Strap it up and play a little bit in the SEC. Promise you probably don't have the opportunity to do that. You probably wouldn't like what you felt like after the ball game was over with. You know what I mean? And that's just a personal gripe of mine. You know what I mean? And I don't care to share that. You know what I mean? I deal with it on a daily basis at my high school. Come on now. If you were that good, come on out and play with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
I think Caleb and I have some eligibility left, but it wouldn't go well for either of us.
Sure, right? You know what I mean? And hey, you guys do a great job, and you do a great show. You know what I mean? It's and that was not a shot at you guys or anybody like that. You know what I mean? But I mean that's for me in the average fan. You know what I mean? Yeah, you pay money to go watch Tennessee play, and you should expect a great product. You know what? But you know what? That's somebody's kid.
Amen. And I think now that they're getting paid, people are even more jaded because of it.
Oh yeah, 100% they are. Hey, you know what? They should be getting paid a long time ago.
Amen.
So
I'll tell you a quick story along those lines. After you won a national championship, Philip Fulmer's getting the trophy, and he told me the story. He said we don't often quote Vicky Fulmer, but we're going to. That Vicky looked at him, his wife, and said, "Well, you've done it now because you're never going to do any better than this."
100%.
And the expectations were through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
They chased him around for the rest of his career, even in good seasons, like, oh well, not a national title. And I think last year's expectations are haunting Josh Heupel to some extent as well. Spencer, keep it up, man. So the playoffs start this week, or
no? We're in our last regular season game this week. It's actually our last region game. We play William Blount, and if we go do our job, and we'll end up undefeated in our region and 9-1 overall, and you know what I mean, hanging out, getting some votes in the state top 10. So I don't know what else we're gonna have to do other than just win it all, and then maybe get ranked at some point in time around there. So
you know what I mean. I'll give that a big hell yeah. Just do that.
So I mean, our kids are playing hard. We're competing, and we're trying to get healthy as we go get ready for the playoffs, and looking forward to being out there and competing for hopefully the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. What was Jeff Cadney's record before you took over? The season before you took over?
Man, you're asking me. That was 8 years ago. I couldn't tell you.
Fair point.
I know we're 30 out of our last 31 games. We're 21 and 10. Our last 31 ball games. So
gotcha.
So Spencer, I mean, we turn it around, turn the corner, turn the culture, see what happens, and let's go have a good time in Dumpling Valley, man. If anybody wants to come watch a good football game, come on up and visit with us Friday night.
Yeah. If you ever need a play-by-play guy, I want to dip my hand back in that again, so you keep me in mind.
Anytime you want to come up, man, let's go.
I'm sure you're already on the radio, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I could probably make that happen.
It's the most artistic thing I believe in the communications industry is calling a football game. It is like I would pay to do that my wife would kill me, but I would pay to. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, that's awesome, man. It's good. It's a fun, and it takes it's a skill set. And look, I tell people, they go, "Hey, you do a great job interviewing." I said, "Guys, it's taken me a long time to get to the bit where I could do this. I mean, I did it every day."
I'm calling bull. You were great from the get.
Oh man!
Back in
I use
1997.
you know, I use yeah, you want to. I mean, there's things that you're not supposed to do. They teach you not to do. I've tried to learn not to do those things over the year and try to be a little bit more articulate instead of so blunt and forthright.
Yep. Spencer, you're the man. I'm going to I got to get a book out to you. You're on my list. If people want to purchase the book, it's right down below. And you're a big part of that. You're actually the reason it came out a little bit later, because you told me such a good story. I had to stop and write another chapter. So
well, it's okay. Good.
It was about that fight, that preseason fight.
Nice.
It's just, I was
nothing
like,
better.
The moment you said that, I was like, "Dad, blame me. I got to stop and redo this part." Spencer, I appreciate you, brother.
Man, I appreciate you guys. Caleb, y'all be good. Take care of him. I know it's a hard deal.
Full-time job.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week. See y'all.
Have a good one, Spencer.
Caleb pretty much takes care of me from 9 to 5, and then the missus takes over at 5:05 and gets me to the next morning. That's pretty much how it works out.